Okay, everybody, welcome to 101 Weekly, episode 8. My God, it's been 8 weeks already we've been doing this. That's madness. Absolutely mad. Right, I just got to do my checks. This happens to me every single week. Right, hold on a second. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, checks done. And welcome to all of you guys that are in the chat, including Mrs. Campbell. Hi, Lisa. How you doing? Thanks for joining the stream. And happy 25th anniversary to you. And what we've got guys in the panel, and it's going to be a nice day today. We've got lots to talk about. Big shout out to Daniel as well. It's my cousin. So my wife is tuning in. My cousin's tuning in. Nice one, Daniel. And big shout out to the team today. But before we go into all of that, let's introduce the panel. We've got Bertrand, Kadim. Which do you prefer to be called, Kadim or Bertrand?
They work. Kadim is my son, so I always use his name as my pseudo.
Oh, okay. So shall we just say Bertram? So because we know who you are. Wicked. So welcome back. He was with us last week for all of you guys that didn't tune in then. So it's good to have Bertram back. Again, a member of 101. So if you guys want to hear what he has to say, tune into the forum. He's very active on the forum. And welcome back, Ebony from New Orleans, who was on AFTV last week as well, having a nice old chat to Robbie. So that was good. I went to see my old town in New Orleans.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's good to see you again. How did you enjoy the whole Mardi Gras and everything? Give us a little spoon of what happened there.
It's New Orleans is a place where you need longer than 4 days. I mean, I literally went out there for Guna Gras, which is and how I learned about that very quickly is that they featured on AFTV about 2 or 3 years ago now, and one of the organizers of that runs a page called Guna Gals on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as I learned about the Guna Gals page on AFTV, I then joined on, and then I learned more about Guna Gras and what it was about, and for the past 2 years I've been meaning to go, and then I decided, right, 2020 I'm going, and I went, and it was a blast. Good, it was an absolute blast. It was just
it's something you definitely recommend.
Sorry?
It's something you definitely recommend to Arsenal fans.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just for women only. It's just that the page Guna Gals is for women only, and I think the story behind that is that sometimes women, when they go on any sports pages on Facebook and what have you, they're voiced out. Whereas on this page, it's a woman's space. Not that men. We're not hating on men. It's just that it's nice to have women's space.
Yeah.
And but the Guna Gras itself, anyone can go.
And that's fantastic. And guys, as well, there's a lot of female presence on 101 on forums. And, there's no disrespect or anything like that. The women are treated equally like men. And if you don't believe me, come down and have a look and check out our forum. And I just want to welcome our last panel, Tony. Tony, always the last one in. How you doing, Tony, man?
Presents, blood, presents.
And loving that shirt. Loving that. Is that the All-Star shirt?
That is last year's All-Star shirt, yeah.
Wicked. Listen, I don't want to even talk about NBA right now because I'm vexed with the dunk competition. Aaron Gordon got absolutely ripped off last night, and I'm vexed with it. I don't know how he didn't get the decision, man. But anyway, listen, great to have you all here. We're relating today. We're celebrating because it's been a great victory, and we got lots to talk about. So welcome everybody in the chat room and the forums as well. Good to have you back. And before we go into the Newcastle game, we've got so much to cover. But I just want to thank everybody who's been supporting the channel over the last 7 days. We've got 300 subscribers. We had 22,000 views in the last week alone. And the channel just completely blown up. And that's all because of you guys. You obviously like what you see. So just come in, enjoy the content, and don't just watch. Come in and be a part of it and have your say. Join the 101 forums. The link is in the descriptions to all my YouTube videos. You can find all the links there that you need to join us on Twitter, join us on Facebook. And just welcome to everybody. So listen, let's get straight into it because today we got a lot to talk about. And so Arsenal win 4-0 against Newcastle. What a game. So I'm just going to go around the panel and get your reactions too. And guys in the chat, if you want to let us all know what's going on, just feed us, man. Big shout out to Alex as well. And as I said to you guys last week, check out his channel. Great channel. Has been going for way longer than I have. He's got a lot of experience as well, and he has a fantastic, knowledgeable panel on his network. So go and check out Cannon Fodder TV, great Arsenal YouTube channel. And listen, Bertram, let's get your thoughts on the Newcastle win.
Well, you seem pretty pleased and happy, so it must have been the same way at the game. I could hear the difference if you watch the telly, as you guys call it. You could hear the difference between the first and second half. I think first half we were pretty lackadaisical, wasn't moving the ball quickly, didn't seem like we were in the game. The game was just blasé. And I listened to two different commentaries. I actually watched Sky and watched NSM and NBC SN, and it was the same. The perspective was the same in both. And on both of those channels, which is about the lack of ingenuity in the game and dynamics in the game. But as the second half came about, and I was pretty disappointed with the selection. I thought Martinelli should have started. I'm not sure why he didn't start. I think
I'll explain that in a bit, because in my section where I was sitting around, a lot of guys were talking about that. So I'll explain that after you finish. Go on.
Right. I thought about Laka should be on the bench. He hadn't scored in 9 games, and the stats sort of specify they should not be starting. But I thought Martinelli should have started, and probably could have put Martinelli to play when Nketiah played, because he's just more effective inside than he is on the wing. But look, the second half we were rampant. It turned out to be a pretty easy game. I thought Newcastle had a pretty couple of chances between Taylor and the kid on the left. We call him Maxi, and he was dynamic. Actually, I think, as I said last year with Traore, there are players you see, which is what Klopp does really well, that play against you. You say, you know what? I could see this person in my team, because he's extremely creative. He's giving Bellerin a very hard time, and Bellerin is a quick player. And we actually were using 2 people to mark him, just like they were doing with Pepe.
Yeah.
So players like that we should be pursuing. But I thought we played really well in the second half. We were having fun in the second half, because most time I watch Arsenal game nowadays, I'm praying for the game to be over so we can get the positive score, because we're leading 1-0. I'm like, we're going to give up a goal at some point. So pretty pleased with the second half and the overall performance, and looking forward to the next game.
Wicked. And just to talk about your question as well in terms of the team selection, it was stated on the last day when Arteta was leaving Dubai that there was going to be a few changes because of the Europa game on Thursday, which is really important for us. So a lot of these guys who didn't play today, Torreira, Lacazette, Martinelli, are going to be featured and probably Mari as well, are probably going to be featured in the Europa Cup game, which is really important. That's probably his first target. As far as success goes, that's probably Arteta's first target. So we're going to see a strong team on Thursday. And at some point, he's just playing the balancing act, isn't he?
My only concern about that is 5th place is up for grabs. And Europa is going to be tough with teams like Inter Milan into Europa. Even though we've come to the finals of the last 2 years, semi-final 1 year and final last year, I'm not sure Europa will be where we get into the Champions League. I think you can still get 5th place. I watched Spurs today. They should have at least drawn.
Oh, wasn't it 20 seconds to go in the game?
That was defender taking his eye off the ball and not thinking about it being, you know what, I need to play until the last second, not the last minute, because it's for the last 30 seconds. And Villa should have been up 2-0 in the first half, but unfortunately it worked out that way. But I think we can get 5th if we keep on winning. So.
Yeah, I do too. I think we can get 5th as well. Daniel is saying very happy for Lack, even if it was a missed kick. Lacazette, it actually went off. You can see he's trying to curl it in with his right foot. It comes off of his inside left foot and sort of ricochets into the net. But yeah, I was happy for him. But I'm glad I got what I wanted. I wanted Nketiah to start. I wanted Lacazette to get on the bench and come on the last 20 minutes, which I mentioned in my YouTube video on Thursday, and that's exactly what Arteta did. So from that perspective, what it tells Lacazette is failure is not an option in this team. You come in, you produce, and what we got today was Nketiah getting some experience. Defensively, he was fantastic. But Lacazette also, the goal, you should see how happy the whole team was. It was crazy. But yeah, I mean, big shout out for that. Aaron is saying to Ebony, nice to meet you in person. I was watching the game, the Spurs and Villa game with Ebony at the Arsenal Supporters Club. And when that Spurs winner went in, we just died. We just leaned on each other's shoulders and boy, that's when I needed that rum. Yeah? That's when I needed the rum. And
thank you, Aaron.
RDR Film says, big up, Aaron. Obviously, big shout out to you, my friend. And listen, just before I go to Ebony as well, I want to give another shout out to T with the Goon Squad WhatsApp group, which is growing. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. If you guys tuning in want to stay active 24/7, 365 a year, check out the WhatsApp page. It is fire, fire, fire. I get up sometimes at 4 and 5 in the morning AM. And I'm like, can't even open my eyes. And I look up the page and the page is still going. It's still banging. So it never sleeps. It never shuts off. And so, guys, the number's right up on there. So check it out. Big shout out to T. And yeah, T actually says all 4 forwards on the score sheet today definitely needed for the great confidence. I totally agree. Alex is saying, don't think we'll get top 5. 7 is reasonable. Maybe. But Alex, we were 8 points off 5th before this game. So it's going to work itself around. There's still 12 games to play. There's lots to play for. I think it's going to be definitely a target of Arteta's, that's for sure. Whether we deserve to get there, it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's Arteta's targeting everything right now. He's just going to go nuts. And then we're going to talk about Manchester City later on in the show as well. So, Ebony, let's get your thoughts on the game today.
Yeah, first half, Bertram, I thought we were also a bit lackadaisical. Yes, there was some pass and movement, but not enough chances created. But in saying that, we should have been at least 3-0 up because we just happened to. Let me just contradict myself. Not enough chances were created, but there were chances created in which we could have been 3-0 up. But I also thought the ball was it was slow, a bit sluggish. Some of the passing was went awry. I thought down the right-hand side, not enough chance, not enough play was created, but on the left-hand side where Saka was, he did bits on the left-hand side as far as I'm concerned. He was just running down that flank like no one's business and creating problems. On the right-hand side, we weren't creating too many problems. We were just lackadaisical. But the second half, I thought we just came alive, and I'd like to know what Arteta was actually saying in the dressing room, because whatever he said, it worked, and Newcastle were just out of sorts. Although they did actually have one chance when we were 2-0 up. They made their substitutions, and I think it was one of their substitutions, I'm not quite sure, who hit the post in the second half. But the pass and movement in the second half was a lot more fluid. We created more chances. I don't care about the missed kick from Lacazette. I'm just happy he got on the score sheet. I'm actually happy that it seems as though that goal was a thing about his confidence coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know. However, he's on the score sheet. All the players that we expect to be on the score sheet were on the score sheet today. Pepe, Aubameyang, Pepe, Ozil and Lacazette. But I thought second half, Newcastle didn't have a chance, and we just shut them down in every aspect. We did, and I thought we defended quite well throughout the whole game. To be fair, I thought Mustafi had a reasonably good game. I thought Bellerin, he didn't do a great deal. Maybe he's thinking about the injury that he's had. Maybe he's being cautious. I'm not quite sure, but he didn't do a great deal. But I thought the rest of the team played pretty well as far as I'm concerned, and defensively,
it's 2 clean sheets now, man.
It is 2 clean sheets, and defensively, we're actually, we're actually getting better and better as each game goes, and we're becoming harder to beat at the back of in defence. But I thought midfield, I think he always play better when Torreira's there. Because he is our linchpin when it comes to defending the back four. But in saying that today, before he came on, we did all right. Midfield, we did all right. I thought we won that battle a little bit between with Newcastle today, I think.
And just to answer a point that you made there, what happened in the second half? What was the change? Why was Torreira on the bench? Well, obviously we know Torreira is probably going to be preferred for the Europa Cup, but I think when I'm going to start from the beginning here. When Arteta took over this team, defense was a real issue, and we've been talking as fans saying, fix the defense, fix the defense, fix the defense. He had found that two holding role of Torreira and Xhaka to work extremely well in terms of complementing each other, positioning, keeping in front of the back four and protecting them. That's worked now. Now he seems to be moving on a stage by stage. So the defense is fixed. We're averaging less than a goal a game, whereas we're averaging 2.16 goals per game under Emery. So regardless what we're going to say, that's fixed. He seems to now want to take it to the next level. This is the second or third game now Torreira hasn't started. What he seems to be doing, especially in the second half, he moved Ceballos way further up the pitch to complement what Ozil was doing, and it worked. That's when we really kicked up the tempo, when Ceballos started to float around and find those gaps and spread the ball quickly. They just couldn't. Newcastle couldn't live with us when we were doing that. So there's definitely certain things that he's trying there. I don't know how it plays into Torreira's long term in the team. I really don't. But we'll have to see. That's the boss's decision to make. But that's definitely what happened there today. But yeah, some brilliant points, Ebony, as always. Tony, talk to me about today's game, man. Batter some 3 points in there. What's going on, man?
We got our Arsenal back. We got our Arsenal back. We got our Arsenal back.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, I'm not even going to complain about nobody. I just love that we scored 4 and let in 0.
Yeah, man.
Because that just is what Arsenal is about. Yeah. We used to have this in our DNA under Wenger. Put the foot on the throat of a team. You know, don't mess around at 2-0. Go 3, go 4, go 5. And we have missed this for so long.
Yeah.
Just go check in the records, Apollo. When was the last time we had a 4-0 win?
Boy, that's a long time, you know, man.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna embrace that, enjoy it. Everybody gets a 10 for me this weekend, because you know what? I don't want any negativity. I just want this to be the formation, the formative stages of the building blocks that Arteta is putting into place. Yeah. I personally think he went out there and said, okay, let's get this ball into action. Let's get our presence set up in the first half, and then we know what we need to do in the second half. I think it was a deliberate ploy not to go out all guns blazing. I think there was a need to establish positionally how we were going to play and get everybody integrated in such a way that we all knew each other's touches. And it just takes a bit of time.
Yeah, it's a good point you're raising, because I noticed at halftime, and I haven't even uploaded my game vlog yet. That's probably not going to have the time to do that until tomorrow. But I noticed at halftime the urgency was down, the tempo was down, and we didn't press them. So it's a good point you're raising. It's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's a deliberate tactic to try to enable the players to first understand the system. You know, there were a number of set plays today, going from playing the ball out from the back, playing it through the channels, down the lines, and you look at it and you go, so much has been worked on during that break in Dubai that you need to be very aware that that's not going to just work very easily. That's not going to just work automatically at 500 miles an hour. What you need to do is you need to do it at like 350 miles an hour, increase to 450, then go to 5 and 6. So I could see it was going to happen. At no point in the time in the game did I feel uncomfortable. At no point in the game did I feel this isn't going to change. This isn't going to up the tempo. I just felt they were going through the motions in the first half. And then in the second half, those motions became like fluid. And all of a sudden, the ball was moving about. The third goal, what was that? 35 passes to a goal.
Yeah, 35 passes, man. Oh, my God. Jeez.
Jeez.
You know what?
Bro,
listen,
that's Arsenal, man. That's my Arsenal.
That's proper Arsenal football. And listen, and listen, Alex has just given us the info that we needed. The last time Arsenal won 4-0 was in the FA Cup against Villa 5 years ago.
What?
My
Jeez.
God, man. Me and my son was there. Big shout out to Killer Beezy in the chat. me and my son was there at the FA Cup final in that game. Oh wow, that was 5 years ago. That's okay. I'm not going to get depressed. This is good. This is good. Big shout out to James in the chat as well, man. James, what time you call this? We kicked off at 8:30. Listen, man. I just want to say that from my perspective, a lot of things went right today, and I went for 2-0. I think Tom was the only one that was in the wheelhouse with 5-0. He said 5-0, but this was something that was waiting to happen. I just want to go back to a point that Alex made. Alex says the defense is still an issue. He thought the back line looked indecisive and hesitant. And a lot of that, Alex, came from Mustafi. I noticed Luis was solid today. Mustafi as well. His positioning wasn't great. His clearances was fantastic. Mustafi's always brilliant at that. But I thought his positioning was a bit off on a few occasions. And there was time on his right side, which is the left wing, had shot up into space, and he didn't close that down. And we talked about closing that cross down on the wing to ensure that the ball doesn't come into the middle, and Mustafi wasn't doing that. And at times that put us under a little bit of pressure. I wouldn't worry about Mustafi. He's a short-term fix. It's only a matter of time before Mari gets put in there.
Pablo Mari.
Yeah, and it's only a matter of time before Chambers comes back and Holden gets a run and William Saliba comes back. It's short term, so we have to wear that on the chin.
Can I also just say that, I thought, and I always say this, I'm going to keep on saying it, Leno's distribution today was off key.
It was poor, man.
I'm sorry. It pardon my French, but it was piss poor today. Yeah. There were times when he does this every single game, okay? And I'm sat there because I was right towards the front. I was in the east stand, row 5, so I was quite close to the pitch. Yeah. And every single time he got the ball at his feet, even when they changed ends after the second half, every single time he got the ball, it's like, Leno, would you please pick the ball up and kick it out, please? Yeah. I mean, even when because you had don't get me wrong. I mean, Newcastle, they defended well to a certain extent, as far as I'm concerned. There were times when they did defend well. However, there were points where Leno has got the ball at his feet, and you have at least one Newcastle player, and it's their quick players as well.
Yes.
Because they do. Because Newcastle, all right, they're not the best, they're not the greatest team, but when they have to play, they will play. And when their forwards need to get forward, and they need to be quick today. I mean, you had Danny Rose today; he was booed mercilessly today. Yeah, when he's ready, he can be quick. And when you've got somebody like that on your case, you need to pick the ball up and you need to kick it out. But no, Leno is doing his faffing around, dilly-dallying with the ball, and he needs to cut that out. And I thought that was one thing that he would have actually learned to eradicate.
Yeah,
during
remember
the
he's
winter
only
break in Dubai.
he's only 25. We got him in when he was 24. He'd be 26 this year, so he's still learning his trade. It's still very young for a goalkeeper. But big shout out to Jay. Nice to see you again, Jay, and big shout out to Holly as well. Let's kick off with the player ratings then, because this is where we're gonna really get down to who the person is. And guys, when you find your man of the match, just tell us and let us know why. People in the chat, I want to hear your grades as well. What would you give them out of 10 as we go along? Bertram, let's start with you and Leno. What would you give Leno as far as his marks out of 10?
He didn't have a ton to do, but I'd probably give him about a 6.5 to 7. I think his distribution is poor, as you've been saying, and it's been that way. And the strange thing about his distribution is he's a good footballer, so he's not uncomfortable at his feet. You wonder why his passes out from his areas are not better situated, especially when he plays the ball in the wing. If you watch Alisson play, for example, the keeper for Man City, they're exact in their passing, right? They get to whoever they try to pick out, they do so. Leno struggles with that. But I thought he made a brilliant save off the Ceballos misheader, because that was going into the left. I thought he played well overall, actually. He didn't have a ton of chances created, and the chances that were created, actually, Newcastle just missed them.
Yeah,
they were inaccurate. So
what would you give him?
7.
7. Okay, we've got a few.
I'm very generous today because we won 4-0. So.
Yeah, listen, guys, we've had 18 give him 6. James has given him 6. T's given him 6. Kez has given him 6. Is 6 so 7's pretty good, because the guys in the chat, they ain't playing right now. The guys in the chat, man, they're out for blood today. Listen, you guys ain't messing around. Ebony, what would you give Leno?
A 6. For the reasons that I've pointed out. Too much dilly-dally. I'm sorry, but the guy is a dilly-dallier. Don't get me wrong, he's a great shot stopper. Okay, he made a couple of brilliant saves today.
But we bought him in here because he had the ability to play the ball up from the back, and his distribution
is rubbish.
It's rubbish.
which is why I keep giving him 6s and 7s. But today, if it wasn't for the fact that he made a couple of great saves, which he did, and like I said, he's a great shot stopper.
Yeah.
But distribution wise, sorry mate, you're getting a 6.
So you've given him a 6. Tony, what would you give him? And guys, listen, let us know what grades that you will give these players in the player ratings. Let's hear your opinion and what you would give the guys grades as well. Tony, what would you give Leno?
10. Told you, man. No negativity. Clean sheet again.
Tony ain't playing today. Have you got anything to add to his performance?
He's got loads to learn. The kid's still young. Let's be honest. There's a lot of players at Arsenal who are probably at their ceiling. Yeah, we take for instance Yakao, Mustafi. They're all playing today. A lot of them played at their ceiling. Yeah, we need to get better players. But in terms of what those guys do with what ability, natural ability they have, some of them are playing out their skins. So I'm 4-0, bruv. It's a 0. No goal conceded.
Wicked. Okay, guys, I think I've lost you for a bit. You're not coming out in my speakers, so Tony said no negativity. I've given Leno what have I given him? I've given him a 7. And I've gone, he made a great save in the 13th minute from a deflection. And he done a lot of better coming off his line. I thought he did really well about that. And he's coming out for dangerous crosses as well. It's just his distribution that's killing us. So, so I've given him a 7. So listen, let's move on to the serial offender, Mustafi. What would you give Mustafi, Bertrand? And guys in the chat, what would you give Mustafi yourselves? What would you give him?
So I give Mustafi a 7 also. So the view is that Mustafi wasn't positioned as well as he can today. But if you watch the game holistically and think through it, the danger was on the left side, on his side. Saka didn't have a lot of danger on his side of the field. And Maxim was running Bellerin ragged all day. So he had to help the cover. So he had to be, and Mustafi's not the best tackler, and he knows this. So that's why he probably was hesitating. I thought he played well overall. I thought he distributed the ball well. I thought he was in position to do a lot of good blocks. People said Lewis played well, but Lewis was much less involved in the game, except in playing out, than Mustafi was. So I gave him a 7.
Okay, right. Ebony, what would you give him? What would you give him in terms
I'll
of
give Mustafi.
Mustafi?
Yeah. I'd give Mustafi a 7. I thought he defended quite well. Yes, there were moments where he was lost in space or lost in translation. But I thought, he dealt with aerially, he dealt with it well. He's very good in the air, which I thought, he made some good clearances. But I mean, tackling wise, he's not the greatest. But I thought, when it comes to aerial play and, making those clearances, he did pretty well today. So I give him a 7.
Okay. So listen, Tony, right. So Tony, what would you give Mustafi as well in terms of, you're probably going to go for another 10. And guys, I'm still having a little bit of audio problems. I can't hear you too well. But Tony, what would you give him?
How many errors did he make today?
Man.
He's making errors.
Like a 10.
Not a lot.
10.
Tony's gone for a 10 again. Oh, mad.
Listen,
mad.
We all know what
So
this guy's about. Yeah? In the grand scheme of things, if you were to rate defenders from 1 to 10, where Virgil van Dijk is a 10, yeah, and Philip Senderos is a 5,
Right.
Mustafi is probably a 6 or a 7 at most. But based on what he's been instructed to do and how he operated today, he did the best he could do. 10.
So you're judging based on his capability.
You got me, Bertram.
Yep. Mad.
Oh man!
So listen, I'm gonna give Mustafi a 6, and again, I'm giving a 6. Shaky distribution. He's got he had some bad angles. Defensive positioning was a little bit off. But apart from that, as I said about the headed clearances, I really appreciate the fact that he's able to do that in his game and always has done, even when he's been poor. His headed clearances were impressive. But I thought he was just slightly above average today. I've given him a 6. Guys, what would you give Bellerin? Let's talk about Hector Bellerin now. Bertram, kick off about Bellerin.
I gave Bellerin a 6, actually. Now, he had a tough day, but that was because of who he's playing against. Maxim, as they call it, is dynamic. He's tricky. He's physical. So I think Bellerin, he coped well, and that precluded him from going forward because he couldn't be as offensive as he'd like to be like Saka was because of how difficult it was to mark Maxim. And I thought Amiram was also drifting over to that side also. So yes, there are two very skillful players I did a matchup against, but I gave him a 6. My feed is coming in late because I can actually hear myself talking subsequent to speaking. So something must be wrong with my feed. I'm not sure what's wrong.
We can hear you.
Well,
okay,
that might be me because I can't hear you guys from my headset
Yeah.
anymore. So I've had to turn on the speaker just so that I could hear what you're saying.
Okay.
So hold on a second. Hold on. Right. Okay. Yeah. Go on. You should be all right now.
Yeah. No. So given all I've said, I've given Bellerin a 6 actually.
Okay. So Ebony, what would you give Bellerin today?
Possibly a 7. I don't think he got forward enough. As I said earlier, maybe he's thinking about the injury that he's had, and also the fact that Newcastle can be quite physical as well. But I thought he did overall. I thought he did okay. But you know, I wish he got forward down the right hand side a little bit more today. So for that, I give him a 7.
Is it my turn?
Excellent. Okay, so 7. Wow, Bellerin's getting some love here. Bellerin, I didn't think he had a great game today. Yeah, it is. But hold on a second. Yeah, go on. Sorry, I'm on a bit of a delay at the moment. Yeah, Tony, what would you give him?
Okay, I'm gonna go and say that Bellerin is, like Ebony said, is still trying to find the best form since his injury. He's been thrown in at the deep end, and quite frankly, he's currently playing at, I think, 7 or 8 of his actual potential. But we know what he can do. Significantly, as Ebony again alluded to, he didn't get past Pepe on very many occasions. And we know he's got that in his locker to get up and down and get past the wide man and deliver. So I'm actually going to give him an 8 because I know what he can do. And based on what I know he can do, he's not playing at his top level. He's playing slightly under. But still, a very good performance today. So he gets an 8. And like you said, Bertram, that's based on his ability.
Okay, so for me, Bellerin, I think I'm going to go with a 5. And as I said, awful first half. Just off the pace, poor passing, 0 penetration on the right. He offered Pepe no support. And this is mainly in the first half. But he improved in the second with both Pepe and Ceballos. And he got to add more runs to his game. But he needs to do that in order to be the player that he's always been. He definitely needs to get beyond that halfway line and add that support. And that's, for me, that's where he's missing. I would just like to see him back to his best. Remember, he's coming off a really long injury. Really, really long injury. So I think he'll get there in the end. But today he was just slightly off the pace. So, yeah, so that's Bellerin, guys. Wow, this is where things are going to kick up now. Bertram, what would you give Saka? Saka at left back, what would you give him?
I gave Saka 8.5. I didn't think he was that great in the first half. So I'll explain. If you watch the first half of the game, I didn't think he was playing that great in the first half, actually. I think second half, he played extremely well. Now, people get all carried away with Saka. The reason why Saka also get a chance to play like he wants to play is because Arteta has Xhaka covering for Saka most of the time. Before we used to attack with the wing backs and the midfield is up front, and we lose the ball, then we have no coverage. So he has much more support than Bellerin does. There's nobody on the right covering for Bellerin when he goes. Xhaka covers for Saka when he goes. I give him an 8. I don't give 9s and 10 easily. You have to walk on water to get 9s and 10. So I gave him an 8.5.
Yeah.
I mean, he set up a really very good goal, the Pepe's goal. I thought Pepe had a better game than Saka did. You may not think that way, but I thought Pepe, his passing is exceptional at the right pace, at the right speed, in dangerous positions. Only Lazy has an ability on the team to do that, apart from Pepe, and maybe Ceballos and someone. So I gave him an 8.5.
Excellent. Eben, you give him an 8. Yeah, he's getting a lot of 8s. He's got an 8 from 18. He's got 7.5 from Alex. He's got 8 from who else has got? T is saying his T's giving him a 9. So yeah, that's a big shout out. Where would you go with Saka, Ebony? What would you give him?
I give him an 8. I thought he on the right hand side he dealt with his opponents well. I thought the way that he just ran past whoever was trying to deal with him with great ease, as far as I'm concerned. He dealt well, actually, and I thought, you know, whoever he was protecting on the right hand side, he managed to do quite well. And I like the fact that, you know, Saka plays without any fear, and that's and when somebody like that is playing without fear, you can actually get the best out of them, and that's what I thought he did today. He was on fire today, so yeah, I give him an 8. He was our best defender today.
Go on, say it. It's my turn.
I think Apollo's having some.
Name's just joined us, which is fantastic. What's going on, Name, man? What's good? And we're doing player ratings at the moment. Tony, Tony, if you're giving them other man their 10, what is Saka gonna get? So listen.
He gets 11, bro.
Let's say your views on Saka. What would you give Saka? Big shout out to Arsenal fan circle as well. What's your marks out of 10 for Saka?
Listen, that boy gets 11 from me. He's balling out. The nutmeg for the goal. Oh!
Yeah, go on, Tony.
That guy's crazy, boys. Come on now. Yeah, no, I love the kid. You know, I think he's exciting. I love that he's so, you know, he's so calm. You know, I listened to his interview after the game. I'm like, yeah, this cat's got 2 gears, you know. He switches up. He's like the calmest guy in the world. But on that pitch, he's different. He's different. I love him. I'll give him a full 10.5.
Well, we should also know he only has 18 months left on his contract, so we better get him signed.
Sign him.
He'll be signed.
I think Apollo's feed is not going in well.
The scores coming in. The scores we've got Daniel's giving him an 8. Boy, he's just getting clear 8s and 9s. Listen, Saka for me, I've gone 8.5. And for me, you have to understand as well, Martinelli wasn't playing because of Saka, guys, yeah, and because of Europe. So he's backtracking, covering defensive gaps, penetration in the final third. Guys, seriously, from a left-back position, I think Arteta wants him to be his permanent lock at left-back. I hope not, because that means we're selling Kieran Tierney in the summer. But I've gone for 8.5. And he was perfect today. That's 8 assists now for the guy, and he's all over it. He's all over it at the moment. So listen, I'm gonna go with 8.5 for him. Bertram, what would you give Xhaka?
I thought Xhaka had a good day, actually. Apart from his stupid foul in the first 8 minutes of the game, which put himself under pressure, I was surprised how well he played with a yellow card. Because normally he makes a stupid foul. I gave him a 7.5, actually. I thought he had a good day. A few errant passes. I thought overall he played well. Positionally, he was well. He's slow of foot, but that wasn't apparent today, maybe because of Newcastle's lack of ability, frankly, than anything else. But I thought overall he had a good game, so I gave him a 7.5.
Okay, 7.5, excellent. So that's probably where as close as my one was. Guys in the chat, what would you give Xhaka, sorry. I keep having to go between the two. Ebony, what would you give Xhaka out of 10?
I'd give him a 7. I thought after that yellow card, I thought, here we go again, back to the old Xhaka. But no, I mean he made some great passes, and yes, you know, there were passes that were of the what are you doing type. And you know, I mean, there were moments where he just looked like the old. It was as if the old Xhaka was creeping back in pre Arteta. But no, I mean, you know, he, as I've said many times, you know, he has improved under Arteta, and I thought, you know, he defensively he was okay. I thought he got forward when he had to as well. So yeah, 7.
Excellent. Okay, so listen, Tony. Tony, man, this is go on. You do it.
Once again, let's make it clear. My mark is based on the player's ability. This guy is not Arsenal quality. He should not be in our team. But he has played some different breed of football since Mikel Arteta has got a hold of him. Yeah. And let's be honest, he's now indispensable in our midfield. We can't do without him. Because think about what you would have without him. Yeah? Who do you choose to play in front of him? Do you choose Ceballos and Torreira? Do you choose Guendouzi and Torreira? Do you choose Guendouzi and Ceballos? Xhaka right now has played himself into a position where he is now, for me, an indispensable player in the midfield. When we were talking about the transfer window, I mentioned how weak we are in midfield. But Xhaka right now, we have to play him because we don't have very many other options. And based on his capability, he's not anywhere near a 6 or a 7. But he's playing his 6 to full potential. And he's working within the system that Arteta has designed for him to play in and to manage. And he did no errors, and we kept a clean sheet. He protected the back four.
Okay, so what we're looking at now is, guys, there's a lot of support for Xhaka in the chat room as well. So gonna have to go with a 7 on this one. Solid game from Saka. Struggled with his pace early on. There was a few times a few midfielders just ran straight by him because he ain't got the recovery speed. But Bertrand made a point of this. Every time that Saka went forward, he went back into the left back position to cover him. And I thought he did really well there in terms of his stability to help the team when they were in various positions. Aaron, I know I've lost my headphones. So what I've done is I've had to plug my audio into a mobile phone, which is about 4 or 5 seconds behind. So apologize for that, guys. But yeah, it's I'm slightly behind those guys. So I'm having to go on their actions when they stop speaking rather than anything else. So big apologies for that. And I can't fix it now because I've already started the stream.
You did a good job in sign language.
I'm going to go with 7 with Xhaka. But David Luiz, guys. Bertram, David Luiz, what would you give him?
He had a very quiet day, actually. I gave him a 7.5. I thought he had a quiet day. He made no errors. He played well. Didn't make some of the mistake that Mustafi did. It's between a 7 and 7.5, and I'm generous today because we won 4-0. Clean sheet, no mistake. Didn't make his normal long diagonal passes to find Aubameyang behind the defense. Tried a few of those, but I thought he played well overall. So 7.5.
Wicked. Okay. What would you give Luiz, Ebony? What's your grades on Luiz?
I give him a 7. I thought he just did a standard defensive job. I mean, there were times when he saved Leno's backside, to be fair, because of Leno's lame distribution. It was just a standard run-of-the-mill defensive job. Yes, he did, find passes at times when and where he needed to be, when he needed to. So yeah, standard 7.
Okay, right. So in the chat we've got Nay, who's given him 6.5. Alex has given him 6.5. 18's given him 7. Aaron's just supporting me with the audio issue that I'm having today. So listen, after 8 episodes, and after all the echoing that we had to fight within the first 2 episodes, this was kind of bound to happen. But I've also got a USB headphone as well, so I might try and plug that in. So for me, listen, let's go on to Tony first anyway, before I give my thing. Tony, what's your views on Luiz?
Okay, based on what we know he can do, based on his talent, we kind of know that he was a lastminute.com purchase, but he's doing all right. I'm going to give him a 9 because I know he can do better.
Really?
Wow. Okay. And you look.
That's generous.
Yeah. Look, I've given him a 7.5. He was completely solid, good positioning, cool under pressure, passed the ball, always has passed the ball well from the back. I think he's actually our best distributor on the team. That's me. I've seen him do it everywhere across the board, PSG, Chelsea, Brazil national team. I've seen him do it at Arsenal, and he's doing it even more pronouncedly now he's in the role that he is. The thing you have to understand about Luiz is this. People talk about him like he's a loose cannon, and he is when a defensive team doesn't have the structure. When you're running around like headless chickens and the stability is all wrong, Luiz is like the worst player on the field. But when everyone knows their role and they're playing with discipline, he's a brilliant player. So I'm going to go for 7.5 as far as David Luiz goes. So now we're moving on to Dani Ceballos. Bertram, what would you give Dani Ceballos out of 10?
I thought Ceballos was one of the better players today. I gave him an 8. I thought he moved the ball well. He was making passes over the top, which is not normally what he does. He's a more side-to-side player. I thought he penetrated really well today. A lot of very good passes, covered a lot of field, which allows Xhaka to have a little more flexibility in terms of how he operated and played deep and cover Saka. So I thought he had a very, very good game, and I gave him an 8. I thought between him, Pepe, and Saka, those 3 were the standouts.
Cool. Ebony, what would you give Ceballos? And I'm gonna try a headphone change here for a second, so bear with me while you're giving your props. And Tony, if I don't bring you in, go straight in after her because I might miss that.
No, I give Ceballos. I give him an 8. Made some wicked passes. Allowed everybody around him to, express themselves freely. I thought his passing movement was all right. I thought out of the midfielders he was possibly the best today. So I give him an 8. Come on in,
okay,
Tony.
So all right. So this is one difficult decision to make because I actually don't know where Ceballos' ceiling is. We haven't seen him for like 3 months now. So it's clear that he can't just go up to running speed after 3 months out. That was impossible. He was never going to hit the ground running that way. I actually see him playing more forward as more of a 10, as opposed to a holding midfielder or the link midfielder. But bearing in mind that, I'm going to give him an 8, which may seem like the lowest mark, but I'm not sure where his ceiling is. And therefore, I'm not willing to say today he put in a 10 performance. Although he had a good game, I think there's a hell of a lot more ahead of him. What do you think, Bertram?
No, look, I think he has a pretty high ceiling.
Okay, right, guys, these ain't working, so I'm gonna just come off these. Right, so for me, I'm going with an 8 with Dani Ceballos. Dani Ceballos, for me, he helped Ozil run the whole show. As I said to Ebony in the second half, the halftime change came through Ceballos. He, for me, was the guy that switched on the light, and that's when the whole team dynamic changed. Great footwork, creative balls, which was lacking from deep. He came through the midfield, made a lot of great runs off the ball, tracking back and defending. He was the total package in the second half. I've given him an 8 out of 10. T is saying Ceballos is an 8 easy standout player. Right there with you, bro. Alex is saying 8.5, brilliant passing and moving. Again, right there with you, my brother. RDI is saying again another 8. And listen, Nay is a 7.5. He was. We've always talked about the impact that he could make in this team when he weren't playing, and we went through that Christmas period. Now he's back. Listen, man, Ceballos is a proper option for this team, so I can't wait to see how he moves going forward. We've got some tough matchups coming after these next few games, and I think it's going to be a big part of that. So listen, next, this is where things are going to start to get fire now. Mesut Ozil, and to the Ozil hater in the corner.
Tony's talking about you. He's talking about you, Tony. So I gave Ozil a 7.5 actually. So if it was just based on the first half, he'd have got a 5. He scored. The thing I love about Ozil and what I hate about, well, I'm calling him lazy because he's not Ozil anymore for me. He's lazy. The thing I love about his game is that he keeps the ball really well. He can find a pass no matter how small the space is, but he runs when he feels like it. All his tackles today were fouls because he doesn't put the effort in to go in front of his man to win the ball. He just pushed them in the back or fouls them. But that's not his game, right? His game is to be offense. His game is to play number 10. I was watching Grealish today and comparing him to Lazy, and to me it was like night and day. I watched Grealish against Tottenham, who's dominant, right? The skill, going by. Ozil doesn't go by players. He plays in one spot. He passes really well. So I gave him a 7.5. And you know, most time I give him a 5 or a 4 or even sometimes a 1. He found what he loved today, which is a poor team where the midfielders are not marking closely. So he has room to maneuver and operate. And that's what he had today. He had a lot of room, he and Ceballos, and he ran all day and he enjoyed himself. But when he plays against a tougher team, a Liverpool, a Man City, a Man U, it's a different situation because players of equal ability gives him problems.
So Ebony, you know what? I got to respect that because, as you said, Bertram, you're a man that holds Ozil to standards. And I like Ozil, and I'm quick to put him down when he does wrong. And I've been very critical of his play of late. You guys read the player ratings that I do anyway. And I do believe he should be pulling his weight. This is a guy who gets you double-digit assists every year. But forget the assist. He actually gets you goals. He gets you, under Wenger, 9, 10, 8, and the most he had was 12 goals in 2016, 2017. And this guy hasn't scored for 10 months. Now, Sky made a big thing about it, and it really isn't because Emery dropped him for 3 months, then he dropped him again for another 2 or 3 months. So he didn't play a lot in those 10 months. Sky was like, hey, he hasn't scored in 10 months, but that doesn't tell the whole story. He's just been fantastic, but it's not even my goal, so I'm going to pass it over to Ebony first, and then I'll tell you what I think. But Ebony, tell me what you think, man. And guys, listen, T's given him a 7. Alex has given him a 2, man. Alex.
No, come
Alex,
on, that's
man,
harsh,
and then he's laughing as well at it. Come on.
No, I give Ozil.
Nay 7.5. No, it's 6. Okay, Alex. All right, 6.
Okay. I'll give Ozil a 7 today. I thought, yes, he made some passes, and there were times when, yes, he did push players in the back, which I've never expected that from Ozil because that's not really his game. But maybe he's toughened up. I don't know. But yes, I thought he made some great assists. Yes, he got a goal. His first goal in a while, but as you said, Apollo, he's not played a great deal of games because of the previous manager. Moving on, I thought today, he picked his passes well, therefore he made some decent assists, and but no, I mean there were times when he didn't go past players, but then there's part of his game that he feels that certain teams he can't go past, and when he does get that room to maneuver, he will go past them. But that's how Ozil is. and I guess we're used to that, but we need to start getting into a thing whereby he does that against the more difficult teams. But today, I give him a 7.
Okay, so Tony, you with us? Tony, is that your son with you,
Yeah.
Tony?
That is my son. Yeah, he's playing Minecraft, showing me his new house.
Excellent. Well, listen, Tony, give us your thoughts on Ozil. Give us your thoughts on Ozil.
Okay, let me just start by saying we got Ozil. We've got Ozil. Listen, has nobody noticed that the way he finished off that move, it kind of reminded me of that wonderful goal, the team goal of the season that we scored where Wilshere and Giroud combined to finish off that goal. I mean,
Yeah,
that was just that one goal was such a beautiful goal. 35 passes. And the girl finishes it off with like the most beautiful little sublime touch inside the box. It's like, wow.
We're comparing that goal to one of the best goals ever in football history.
Ever.
I'm sorry.
Yes, because it was
Wilshere's
a
goal was one, if you watch that goal and the one Wilshere, because no, sorry, it's not even comparable at all. That goal goes in folklore. That's a goal you watch on Tubu 100 years from now and wondering how they made all those passes. We're comparing Lazy's little touch. He actually almost didn't pass. He passed about to the keeper. It's a poor goalkeeping. Sorry. No way. I'm not hating on Lazy. No way.
Well, listen, the man stole my thunder. He stole my thunder up there. Came up there. Right? Listen. Ozil is Ozil. Yeah? A lot of people do not give the guy the credit that he deserves. Yeah? You got to consider his age. Yeah? You got to consider his experience. You got to consider his mileage. He's put a lot of mileage on his clock. Yeah? If he's a car, he's one of them cars that's done over 150,000 miles. And you're like, yeah, you can still pull out a performance that he consistently does some of the highest kilometers of all of our players, but he does it in a way differently to any other player in the league. I know what you're saying about Jack Grealish and the way he's dynamic, yeah. But did Jack Grealish score today? No. Did he win today? No. Did he keep a clean sheet? No. So for them reasons and them reasons alone, Ozil, I'm gonna take him. I'm gonna take what he has, what he offers us, and say until we find someone who's dynamic enough to replace him, let's just admire him and take what we got and enjoy what we got when we can. You know, his ceiling has come and gone. Yeah. So as I always say, if I'm basing my mark on what his ability is, yeah, 5 years ago, he would have been a 10 player. Now he's a 7 player. Where's he playing in that 7? Arteta's got him balling again. He seems to be enjoying his football. I'm going to give him a 9. What the hell?
So listen, guys. Alex is saying he's a player on a decline. You can use the stats to show you. Yeah, the stats don't lie. You know, I mean, what can you say? Aaron's giving him a 7. Daniel's giving him a 7 or an 8. Look,
I wish he'd shoot more.
You guys might not like
That's
this,
the
and I'll
problem.
post this later on today. Ozil was my man of the match today. 9.5 out of 10.
So
his
when
link-up play was
Ebony,
exceptional.
when did he
Total possession football from Ozil today. Even in the first half, when the team weren't playing well, he was moving forward. Every pass was forward. He found pockets of space, and the intelligence to do that was just showing his quality of movement. There was only him and Saka that was creating all that space in the first half. but the energy bursting forward runs in the second half is what was the catalyst behind the goal rush. Him and Ceballos was just providing that link that we haven't had in so many games, which is why we ain't scored goals. And I thought he was brilliant. And look, he was my man of the match before he's even scored his goal. Everyone in the section that I sat in, I said to them, Ozil's lights out today, man of the match. And then what did he do? He went and scored. So it just topped it off for me. But yeah, I do agree with you guys. It's on a decline. I'm his biggest critic. You've heard me over the few weeks say that I think that Ceballos should be spotted in at the 10. And look, he did it today. And when he does it, you got to give him respect for that. You got to call it out when he doesn't play well, and you got to call it out when he does play well. So yeah, I mean, Alex is saying Ebony's spot on. He does need to shoot. Yeah, he's just not shooting enough.
Yeah.
That's just killing his game. I don't know why. But guys, that's my man of the match. We're moving now on to Pepe, which I think is going to be quite a few of you guys' man of the match. So, Bertram, fire off, man.
I thought Pepe was an 8.5 today. I thought it was one of his better games. Obviously, he gave Aubameyang the first assist. He scored also. I thought he played within himself today. Normally, he just dribbles into a dark corner and loses the ball. He had very few turnovers today, which I think was good. He's defensively challenged, but that's why I think he should play the 10 versus on the wing, so we can get better coverage for our wing backs and full backs. But I thought overall he played extremely well. I love his passing. That's why he should play in the 10 position. He can make lazy type passing. He can pass like Ozil, frankly. Well, maybe stretching a little bit, but he does pass really well with the right pace. Most people try to play a true pass and it runs out of bounds. That sort of pass he gave to Laka today, if you watch the speed he was going and how well designed the pass was, gave you an example of some of his capability. And if you watch him in the French league last year, it was the same thing. He had a number of assists because he's very creative. He also can run at defense. We don't have anyone can run at the defense from the middle of the park. They have to come all the way from the wing to come inside. And that's why I think they should try him at the 10 and play Martinelli on the wing with Abba, with Laka and Kedia inside, with a much more dynamic team. You also have to hide Pepe defensively, because defensively he's really bad. He's like the old Abba. Abba is now putting in much more effort to play defensively, but Pepe struggles defensively. So you have to give him the freedom like you give to Lazy, or as you call him, Ozil, to allow him to be able to roam. But when he gets the ball, he can move it forward and he can get by people, which then create mismatches because the defenders have to come to you. He can make passes. We don't have that in the middle of the field, which is very frustrating for me. So I gave Pepe an 8.5 and man of the match.
Excellent. So listen, Daniel's given him a 9, which is his man of the match. I kind of knew that it was either going to sway towards Ozil or Pepe. Arsenal fan circle, again, he's gone for a 9. You can't argue with it, can you? A goal and 2 assists. But for me, the reason why I've gone with Ozil, because who gave him the balls to facilitate those runs? And it's not just that, Pepe was the total package. Ney is giving him an 8. It says push forward more, took on more players today, seems more confidence too. Yeah, it seems to be tying that down. And let's see what happens when Reece Nelson comes back. T is saying a goal, 2 assists, bad boy, 9 out of 10, easy. I think he is quite a few. I think the consensus is Pepe was the man of the match for you guys. Even though Ozil was for me, it seems it's pretty clear that Pepe had it for you. 18 is saying Pepe again, 9. Aaron, Pepe, and he's only going to get stronger. Agreed. Look what my man was able to do with Raheem Sterling and Sane. Yeah? And them guys, boy, you know what? Pepe, the sky's the limit. Yeah? And not just for him, for Reece Nelson as well. Ebony, what would you give Pepe?
I'd give him a 9. I thought his passing down the left was, well, down the flank anyway, because I was tired. But yeah, I thought his passing movement was great. I thought his assists were great. I thought his goal he took very well. Yeah, I mean, I think. I mean, there was a moment where in the second half he lost the ball. He tried to get it at the edge of his feet, and then he ended up giving Newcastle a second corner, which I thought, for crying out loud, why? because any corner or can potentially lead to a goal. Nonetheless, I thought, you know, his running down the flank was excellent, and you know, every time I see him play, I always look forward to him play because of the fact that he can actually run down the flank and just and become a nuisance to opponents, which is what happened today. And this is why Newcastle had to have 2 players on him, because he is hard to handle, and that's the kind of player that we like down that flank. So yeah, 9.
Wicked. So Tony, what have we got? We've got RDR going for 8. Nay's actually saying that Saka was her man of the match. That's a good shout. Very good shout. Although he could have had a couple of assists, actually. He had one. He could have had that one, but Lacazette didn't get on the end of it. But in saying that, Pepe's lights out. Tony, what do you think of Pepe? And was he your man of the match?
Presence, blood, presence. Listen, that guy, he is setting our team on fire. He is the spark. He is the guy that is running rings around players. Listen, first, the guy got 2 assists and a goal. He laid one on a plate for Eddie Nketiah. Nketiah hit the bar from 3 yards out. Yeah? So he should have had 3 assists and a goal. Yeah?
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Listen, I've gone for 9 out of 10. He only just missed it by a small margin for me. Again, goal and 2 assists. Should have had 3 assists. But guys, let's talk about. And you know I'm a stats man, so I'm just going to throw it all at you. He won 5 tackles back from running back to help them in field. They never talked about that on Sky Sports. He also created 4 chances, which was the most on the pitch to all the other players. So from a creative standpoint, and the fact that he nearly had 3 assists, there was one man that was running that show outside of Ozil and Saka, and that was Pepe. And my point is this: if you've got that level of play coming from the right side, and you've got Saka coming from the left side, and whether or not Kieran Tierney gets that left back position, I'm not bothered, because if he does, he's going to play on the left attacking wing side, and that creates problems for us, because how's Martinelli going to get into the team? But that's a problem for the manager. But for me, to have Saka and Pepe on each side is terror for a defense. It's complete and utter terror and overkill for a defense. So I've gone for a 9 out of 10. And we've got Aaron that says Pepe got the show started. That's why he's my man of the match. And he finally got some points on his fantasy as well. Yeah, I mean, look, he's got 6 goals and 7 assists. Pepe's just lighting it up, man. Just lighting it up. Right, Aubameyang, Bertram, what would you give Aubameyang? And guys in the chat, what would your marks out of 10 be for Aubameyang?
I gave him a 6.5. And that's because he scored. I mean, we talk about Saka a lot. That's because Aubameyang wasn't really in the game as much. You know, we talk about Saka a lot just because of Aubameyang's playing on the left, and he wasn't dynamic. He's the worst passer in the PL, period. I haven't seen a worse passer. Most of his passes go to the opposition. He's just a terrible passer. Wow. He's terrible passer. Watch the game and chart him. He's like Sanchez used to be. Turn the ball over a lot, just about to make a pass. He wasn't dribbling like Sanchez. He don't try to play selfish like Sanchez does. But he's a poor passer. He's not a great hold-up player. He has nowadays tracked back quite a bit. So maybe his defense is taking some away from some of his offense. And he actually made us he gave us the sort of assurance today by scoring, because before then, you're pretty nervous about what direction the game would go in. And when he scored that goal, you felt a sense of a relief, and you felt much better, because up until then, we weren't really dangerous, apart from Nketiah missing a goal that is easier to score than to miss, which was interesting. But I thought Alba was 6.5 today. I didn't think he played as well as others did.
Okay, so Ebony, we've got some grades coming in. So Arsenal fan circle, Aubameyang 7.5. T's saying he gets a 6 because he scored, and that's pretty much where my views were. Daniel's given him a 7, and Alex has given him a 6.5. Nay has said Uber wasn't really in the game, didn't look sharp either, and a 6. And listen, every time I talked about Aubameyang before Christmas, I said he was the only striker in the top 10 that didn't have an assist. And he got his first assist around Christmas. That's halfway through the season. And that shows you how bad a creative player he is. He isn't really that left wing, go past that defender, beat you, play that 1-2. He isn't that guy. He just doesn't have that winger ability in him in the way Thierry Henry did, or anybody else for that matter. So from a creative standpoint, you really haven't got that much in Aubameyang. He'll score, he'll get you goals, but outside of that, it's not much that you're going to get from him. Ebony, what would you give Aubameyang?
I'll give him a 7. It's all 7s today for me, really. Yeah, as was said, I mean, he wasn't really in the game that great of a deal. I mean, he missed a couple of chances in the first half. You know, I like to, when I see Aubameyang play, I like to see him as a part of a front two. He's not, but in saying that, he has tracked back. He has been tracking back quite a bit. You know, he's just not he's not the greatest passer. Maybe he should be played as a fox in the box. You know, maybe that's up for debate, but you know, he's not a great passer. No, he doesn't hold up the ball well. That's not part of his. That's not in his locker. His locker is to have the ball provided to him and to score goals. But like I said, in saying that, you know, he under the new regime, he has actually been able to track back, which he wasn't doing in his game before. But yes, he scored a goal, a lovely goal, well taken. But had he taken his couple of chances in the first half, then maybe he would have actually got an 8, or maybe even a 9. But today it's a 7 for me today.
Okay, Tony, before you go, a lot of guys giving him 7 and 6s. James has joined the party a little bit late, so he's just said, Pepe pleased me today, start of things to come. And yeah, I think that's how we all feel about him. This has to be the comment of the day, Alex. Uber looked like he was missing Dubai. Oh my God, I'm finished. You're probably right. In the first half, they were all missing Dubai.
Nah.
In the first half, they were just like, what's going on here? Hurricane Dennis, after coming out of the heat, proper madness. But yeah, Tony, what would you give Aubameyang?
Oh, Aubameyang. Wow. Well, I'm trying to be really positive, and as you know, I've been giving a lot of 10s out today. But Aubameyang for me is a very it gives me headaches because I can see what he can do. And again, Bertram, I'm going to say, if I base my score on what ceiling he has, he quite clearly has the ability to run past players for fun. You know, he can knock a ball and run around you and meet the ball before you've even blinked. So there's very few players in the Premier League who can match him. However, he's the captain of the team. We wouldn't be where we are without him. But he's not playing up to his best football at this moment. So I'm going to give him the lowest mark that I've given anybody based on the 4-0 win today and the fact that he scored a goal. I'm going to give him an 8.
Damn, okay. Wow, an 8 is still really good. 18's given him a 5. I've gone 6.5 out of 10. And for me, again, I'm not seeing much creativeness from his game, and that's irked me from day one. I love him as a goal scorer. His positioning in the box is brilliant. His instinctiveness allows him to get all those goals. So I love that from that standpoint. I think the one thing that he has in his favor is since he's become captain, his work rate has doubled. He's really running himself into the ground for the team and working hard. And that's all you can really ask from a captain. When Xhaka was captain, we didn't see that work rate. When Xhaka was captain, he didn't run himself into the ground. And that's the big difference there. So, guys, we've got one more, well, two more if you can include Arteta. Eddie Nketiah, Bertram, you go, man. Let's hear, and you guys in the chat, let's hear your grades for Eddie Nketiah and be nice because he's 20 years old and he only just went behind the ears and get his first start as well.
If we have to preface what we say for Nketiah before we give a grade, that's not a good thing. That means he didn't have a great day at the office. Look, I think he's a good hold-up player. He has very good speed. He actually has good skill. But I gave him a 5 today. I thought he wasn't in the game in the first half. That wasn't his fault. We just weren't getting the ball to him. And then he missed that sitter, which was, as I said, easier to score than to miss. Because all he had to do was tap the ball in the goal. So I couldn't give him more than a 5 today. I don't think he was necessarily a worse player, but that goal he missed brought him from probably a 6, 6.5 to a 5. Because we needed that goal and he didn't deliver. And look, he's getting his chance, which I thought was interesting that he started today. But I gave him a 5.
Okay, so for me, first of all, welcome Emery in. We've been missing you today, mate. He's gone. Uber is only electric over 5-10 yards. He should be playing down the middle. And we've heard that quite a few times today. And let's be fair, the reason why he doesn't play down the middle is because with the way how this team is set up in this formation anyway, is because it needs the anchor man at the point to hold the ball up, which Aubameyang doesn't do very well. If you're playing 4-3-3 native formation, then you can play Aubameyang in the middle of that because the three front players are interchanging. But in this formation, it doesn't really work well for an anchor man to not hold the ball up, and that's why he's not playing at the point. T is saying Eddie was decent for me. He didn't get any service in the first half. His movement off the ball was good. Agreed. His shot was on. Moving back wasn't easy to finish. That's exactly what I said. Nay is also saying 6.5, better than Uber. Wish he scored. I think it's his nerves that took him over. Worked hard and and got in the way. And that's the thing. Defensively, he's a great player. He's got a lot of energy. And Aaron's match of the day is creeping him. He's like, yeah, because it's just started. So listen, thanks for joining us, Aaron. I appreciate that, man. And Arsenal fan circle's gone 6.5. Daniel's gone a 5. James has gone a 6. Alex has gone a 6 as well. Boy, Ebony, talk to me, man. Nketiah.
I'm going to give him a 7.5. I mean, people do forget his movement off the ball for the most part. Yes, he missed a sitter in the early stages of the second half, but he's still young. He's still learning. He's the tea's cracking me up. His movement off the ball is great. Yes, he missed a sitter. But I thought that his positioning was on point. But he's only 20 years old. He's still got his whole game ahead of him. So yeah, I thought he did all right. Like I'm going to give him a 7. Actually, give him a 7.
Excellent, Tony. What would you give Eddie? Eddie, what have you done for me lately?
I'm going to give him an 8. Good hard work, but he's got a higher ceiling. And I think in time, given he needs games under his belt. And I think in time, we've got ourselves a very good player.
Most definitely. Guys, I've given Eddie a 6. First start, he hardly got any service in the first half, but his movement and communication was great. It's just that nobody was giving him the ball in space. When you watch him, he's the most animated player on the field as far as positioning, putting his hands up and pointing to the ground to tell you where he wants the ball being played. That is fantastic hunger. That's something we don't see from Lacazette. And when the ball gets played into the middle, that's why Eddie can get on to the end of it, because he's a fox in the box. He is the Dwight York, Andy Cole in this team right now. And the more we play him, the more he'll be able to develop in this role. Wasn't his day today, but again, all you can ask from somebody when it's not your day is how hard you can work. So listen, last one up, guys. Bertram, Arteta, and guys in the chat, what would you give Arteta marks out of 10?
When the game started, I gave him a 4. And when the game finished, I ended up at a 8, 7.58. So a big difference between the team he picked, how we played in the first half, and how things materialized as the game progressed and ended up. So I gave him an 8.
Okay. Ebony, what's your views on Arteta? What would you give him?
Today I'll give him an 8. I liked the team selection. I liked the tactics that he deployed today. They weren't always executed, but then you can't blame him for that. He can only do what he can. But I love the fact that he gave Nketiah a chance. I'm glad that he gave Ceballos a chance as well. I'm glad that he dropped Lacazette to the bench today, because I think Lacazette needed it. But yeah, I mean, you know, he chose the best team with what he's got right now that's available. So I'll give him an 8 for, you know, the fact that, you know, he picked the team that he did. We're all happy. The fact that, you know, the four scorers were the 4 scorers today. It could have been a lot different, but hey, you know, he's using the best of what he's got, who is available right now. So I give him an 8.
So the score's coming in as well. Nay's giving him an 8. 18's giving him a 10. Alex is giving him a 7. Daniel's giving him 7.5. James is giving him an 8. And Alex, we must have missed your one for Lacazette there. He gave him a 6.5. Tony, what's your view on Arteta today? And listen, you made that point about the fact that he was managing the half time. So great point.
So let's get this right. How many years is it since we won 4-0? Four nil, people. 4-0. We have not won a game by 4 clear goals. In how long?
Yeah, you know what? You know, it's that's a good point. And listen, I've gone for a 9 out of 10. I can't remember the last time I gave a manager 9. Actually, yes, I do. It was when Unai Emery beat Spurs 4-2 at the Emirates. That was the last 9 I gave a manager. Look, this is total team management here. Arteta is in control of this team. He has not lost the players. He's set a certain level, yeah, and the players have to aspire to it. That's how he's managing this team. First half, he managed the ability to change the game, is what we saw today. A team that was leaking goals, he's managed to stabilize that. Now he's starting to work on the midfield and the final third, and it was just a brilliant result for us. So listen, I'm giving him a 9. Yeah, guys, listen. Thanks to everybody who joined in the player ratings. And
I think you missed Willock and Laka.
It's not important. Apollo. What's happened in the buy has happened. Tony's brought up an interesting point. No, Laka, I'm sure I've done Lacazette. Haven't I done Lacazette?
No, Willock, no.
Oh, no, you're right.
Those were low. Those were the substitutions.
I haven't done the subs, so I'm just going to leave the subs alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't done the subs. Yeah. So guys, we're just going to cover why Arsenal buy injured loan players, and yeah, this is a really tough subject. We've seen it happen with Kim Kallström. We've seen it happen with quite a few players, actually. But why
Amory
do you think that
Bishkov,
it is that
him?
Arsenal do buy injured loan players? I don't really have that much to say on it because I understand. Yeah. I mean, I understand that the way how some loans work is that initially you have players who take a player on loan if they're short on transfer funds but can still pay wages or for temporary cover for injuries and suspensions. Arsenal fall between that bracket that they don't have the money to spend on players and they're suffering injuries and suspensions, and that's why we saw 2 loans in January. Bertrand, what do you think of that? Just a quick one on this subject.
I think in this specific case, isn't he a free agent come end of this year? And so we may just be trying to get in with, we may want to get him on a permanent basis because if he's injured now, we only have a few months left in the season, it makes no sense. But maybe they want to influence him to sign with us this year on a free. You only got to pay his wages. And maybe that's how you get in with him early in the process to do so versus saying, we're trying to have him as a cover because he's not a cover. I mean, you can't cover when you're in the hospital. You can't cover when you're injury table. So I'm not sure what he's covering, apart from his wages. He's getting paid. So there's no logic behind that. And conceptually, why we buy injured players, I have no idea. It shows it's management's ineptness. You have to be inept to want to buy a player that can't help you when that's why you got them on loan, especially in the January transfer window. It makes no sense to me. So here I may think it's much more strategic, which is I get him in on board. I get to sign him in the summer. He's a good player, he's a good cover. Maitland Miles doesn't want to play on the right back or a left back. He wants to be a midfielder. And you have to have a player with experience who has done it in the Premier League to be willing to accept a bench role. So that's the only reason I can provide as to why we would do so. Otherwise, it makes no sense.
So, Ebony, what's your thoughts on this? It's a very touchy subject, but it'd be good to hear your insight.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, maybe because the manager knows how good a player is, so while they're injured and they're out of favour with their current team, it's good to come, to bring them in on loan, and while they're on loan, they could recover, while not playing. So therefore, once they recover, we can actually see, what they're about. And maybe the manager can reacquaint as to why they've actually taken that player on loan in the first place, even though they're injured. I don't know. I mean, we have a history of that. I mean, as you pointed out, Kim Kallström, Amory Bishkov was another one permanently injured. We had Abu Diaby, who we kept for a very long time during his injury, but then we let him go. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. I mean, it's a bit contradictory when we have injuries and we're hunting for players that we're looking to cover those injured players with players that are injured. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. Maybe because once they're not injured, or because we know how good they can be and what they're capable of doing, that once they're not injured, we can say, all right, okay, we're going to keep that player because we know what their potential is, or we know what they're capable of. But otherwise, I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it.
We did this with Denis Suarez as well. He came from Barcelona, and after the first training session, it turned out that he had an injury as well. I mean, Nay is even saying doesn't make sense to her. You never know how players are going to recover and if they will, after the injury too. It's a good point. I like I said, for me, it's got a lot to do with a team trying to cover the injuries, the suspensions, and if they don't have the money to be active in the market as well, that's very important. The players going forward on loans, it would be whether they won't be in the future plans of the team that they're currently with as well. We have to look at ourselves on the likes of Mkhitaryan and what he was going through. He weren't in Emery's plans. He was off, and we don't know whether Arteta would take him back. That's something that we haven't pursued yet. So that would be interesting. Tony, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so this obviously was a point that I raised with you in the week. That it was something I thought we should have a chat about. And much like most of the comments that have been made already, it just makes no sense at all. You know, if you consider that this is a business, yeah, you're not gonna find yourself buying a horse that's lame. Yeah, this is like you're buying into a horse and it's lame, and you expect it to perform. Yeah, we're not playing in the. You're not playing in the second division. We're not playing in the Scottish in the Premier League, the most physical, fastest league in the world. Yeah, which is why I look at some of the players we have and think, are you strong enough? Are you fast enough? If you're not strong and fast, you'll easily get found out in this league, which is why players like Mustafi and Xhaka ultimately get found out against the very top teams. Because not only have you got to have that physicality, but you've got to have that speed of mind, speed of feet. So you look at a player like Cedric Suarez and you think, you know, if you're not strong enough to actually come in and from the get-go, put in your presence. Why are you coming in? Why are we making that decision to bring a player in who's weak? As far as I'm concerned, you're not strong enough to come in and show us your presence. Now, if you're a baller like Nicolas Pepe, you can make an allowance because ultimately he's not playing at the back. We didn't buy him for defensive duties. We bought him to score goals and create. And quite clearly, he's capable of doing both to a very high standard. But defenders should be brutish, strong. You know, I look at William Saliba and I'm like, presence. You look every time you watch him play, he has huge presence. But I just don't understand how you're buying these midfielders and you're buying these defenders and they're not strong enough to come in and immediately make an impact.
Yeah, and just picking up on 2 points there, we've got Holly. Again, really good to see you in the chat, Holly. He's saying, why can't we get like an actual player and not a loan? And a lot of that we're going to cover after this topic, which is about financial fair play. Arsenal have been very antsy about the situation they were left in with Dick Law and Arsene Wenger. They got caught out. That prompted the Ramsey fallout and other issues where that January, which was Emery's first January, we couldn't spend a penny. They're watching the books. They're being very careful with that. And at that point, unless we sold the player, we physically couldn't buy anybody. So that's why we had to go for those loans. So, yeah, I mean, this leads on to Saladin, which has said, what kind of 11 are we going to look forward to against Olympiacos? And again, we're looking at people like Socrates, Lacazette, Torreira, Martinez, Willock, Klasnach, Martinelli. Those are the players that didn't play today, so expect to see them on Thursday evening. But yeah, I don't really have much to add to that, Tony, outside of the fact that Arsenal and other teams that are desperate to get rid of players they don't really want, or if they want to pick up a couple of people who they feel they can help them with, would help them in their time of need. And that's really where we're at the moment. It's desperate, especially in the case of Cedric Suarez, because they knew he was injured. So they were thinking long-term, really. Yeah. So guys, that's going to put us into our last subject, which is very, very, very controversial. And I just want to open this up by saying some facts. Let's state some facts at the moment, yeah? The facts were that City was already done in 2016 for financial fair play, where they had a 50 million fine. They appealed it, and they had it reduced to 16 million. And what's happened here is the probe was launched last year. Actually, it was November 2018, where they found out that actual Man City was guilty again. So that's where everything started. So last summer, when all of this came up, it was found out that Manchester City had leaked documents where they dumped emails and letters and basically had found out that they were fudging the appeal process. So they were found guilty. Manchester City was like, well, okay, we're going to prove that we're not guilty by showing you papers and showing you things to show us that we are actually balancing the books. Those things were fabricated. They lied. It was completely done to deceive UEFA. And that's the reason why we're seeing this happen now, where UEFA has come out and said, we've seen what you've done. We have proof that not only did you cheat the system, which we called you out on, but when you appealed what we found out from you, you fabricated more lies to tell us that what you did initially wasn't wrong. So it's a double whammy. That's why we're seeing a 2-year ban, 25 million fine. And the news today is that that's from UEFA. The news today is that the FA is going to step in and probably give them a points ban. It's probably somewhere around 6 points. It might be 3. It really depends on what the FA does. But initially, that's the situation that we're in today, guys. So I want to get your thoughts on it and everybody in the chat as well, because this is quite an important subject. And I do have a lot more to say on this, but I want the panel to speak as well and give their views. So Bertram, what's your take on this?
So I'm somewhat conflicted, because my understanding is that the information that was used to penalize City, because it came from them being hacked, so using evidence from a source, even though they probably got all the information around City, which is that source even legal in the first place for you to even make decisions on? Having said that, I think City has been breaching the rules for a while now. They have to. I mean, Man City doesn't have the turnover like a Man U does, like even though a Tottenham does, a Barcelona or Madrid. So they have to create some fictitious scenario in terms of sponsorship, which I'm sure the owners are paying for because they have the resources to be able to supplement and be able to go out and buy players and pay those high wages. They don't have the turnover. Very few teams have the turnover as a Barcelona, a Madrid. Nowadays, I'm not even sure how Juventus makes it money because Italy is not, Serie A is not running it, flush with dough. But these teams, Juventus does buy people on free and then pay them huge wages. So they do save money there in some way, shape, or form. But overall, I do think City should be penalized. Should it be 2 seasons? I am conflicted because some teams are reeling with debt. Teams like Chelsea came in with illicit money, frankly, to buy the team and to pay high wages and to go out and buy up all the young good players so they can hoard them, loan them out, and then maybe sell them on. Which is worse? UEFA need to get its situation straight, which is it's not just about I have a lot of resources and be able to go out and buy players and pay players. It's also got to be what's your source of funds, because is Chelsea the right model? Is Arsenal the right model? Our turnover is actually about 100 mil less than Tottenham, which is concerning. That stadium is only going to help them draw more revenue. So we got to be concerned about being a top 6 club, because if you have woes with Chinese owners, our owners, even though he's worth 10 billion, is not putting money in the team. We're going to be challenged going forward to be a top 6 team unless we make Champions League, can buy the better players. So City should be penalized. Should it be 2 seasons? Should it be 1? I don't know. But I'm sure PSGs know better because they have similar owners and they're doing the same thing in France. So they haven't been hacked to get information. So is it good to get illegal information to penalize someone versus through normal means? Don't know.
Okay, so there's one important aspect that before I hand it over to Ebony, there's one important aspect that I need to cover first before we go any further. And some of you out there are completely knowledgeable and clear in your understanding of how this all works. So for those of you who aren't, I just want to make sure that we're all on a level playing field in this conversation here, because it's very important that we all get it right. So if some people are trying to understand why this is a process and why did they bring financial fair play in, it wasn't to stop the big clubs from dominating the game. What City's doing isn't the reason why financial fair play was brought in. Yeah, and if that's something that you thought, then it's just not true. The reason why financial fair play was brought in was because of something that the players asked for, and it's something that the agents asked for, and it was to bring parity and fairness and to ensure that, and to ensure that teams would never get themselves into trouble. Now, we've seen in various sports like the NFL, they have a salary cap. In Formula One, they have a certain budget which they work within. And the reason why these things are in place is to make sure that teams do not spend beyond their means. Now, the FA was a big advocate for this, and the teams all signed off on it, including Manchester City. So what's going on with Manchester City now is funny because they agreed to the process and the rules, but yet they're breaking it. So if you take something like Portsmouth were a team that was spending massive money on players' wages, huge money on players' wages. When they got relegated, they were not able to pay those wages anymore, and the owner lost a lot of money as well. That got themselves into a situation where the players couldn't get paid. People like Sol Campbell was taking Portsmouth to court because he wanted his money. So financial fair play is in place to ensure that teams do not spend beyond their means so that they can have a safe future, a safe governing body, and a safe business plan. And that only suits the teams themselves and the owners. That's why it was brought in, not to stop the big teams from spending. Now, from a player's perspective, the player doesn't care about the team. They don't. A player cares about two things: winning and money. And if you take someone like Patrick Vieira, when Juventus got demoted for fraud, when they got demoted, Patrick Vieira was the first player on the plane out of Juventus. He didn't care about the team, where they were going, their goals. All he wanted was a ship out of there. He didn't care. Sol Campbell, a year after Portsmouth had gone down, Sol Campbell was still taking them to court to get his money. Players don't care about the team. You see them kiss the badge and you see them doing all this stuff. Players are only interested in money and winning. That's it. So I just wanted to cover that off for you guys in case you weren't aware of how the financial fair play works. Again, you got to remember, in the Premiership, we have a certain structure with the Sky money, 94 million. Then you make your bonuses on appearance. So teams can make 100, 125 million. We have the sponsorship, shirt sponsorship, kit deals. So teams like United are making about 200, 220 million. Arsenal, we know they make 120 million on the TV money and 60 million on the Adidas deal. So Arsenal are making roughly about 180, 190 million if you tap in the Rwanda things and all that. But when you look at Real Madrid and Barcelona, their TV deals are 300 million euros. We're not even close to what those teams are earning. So financial fair play really isn't about that. Yeah? Ebony, go on. You go, man.
I think that if rules are set and, all the other teams and players want these rules to be set with regards to financial fair play, then it's only right that Man City should be penalised for breaking those rules. Why vote for rules along with other teams, along with other players, and then break them? I think for far too long now, they've been in a position where they can actually buy who they want to. They've probably spent more than they've earned. I don't know. I'm not in that field. Do I have any sympathy for them? Not really, no. It's like voting for something and then going against it, but you've gone for it. But at the same time, you're not really for that particular rule or implementation. So therefore, you're going to do your best to weave around it. And that's what Man City have done. And I just think that, when you've actually looked at the money that they've spent over the past, 10, 11 years now, since they've been bought out by a sheikh, I thought Chelsea were bad, when they were first bought by Abramovich. Man City have actually come in and they've actually taken over, and they've just splashed money on the best players, and it's at an unfair advantage to other teams, because we can't compete with that. If you look at the fact that Arsenal fans and Arsenal players or Arsenal fans can only dream of getting the world's best players, but we can't because we don't have, or we do have that, but have that amount of money, but we don't spend that amount of money because we're very careful with our budget. And even when Arsene Wenger was manager, he held those purse strings quite tightly. So, on that basis, on the fact that Man City have actually broken the rules, they deserve to be penalized. And I think any team across Europe, it shouldn't just be down to English teams, any team across Europe who are spending more than what they're earning, or breaking financial rules, and stuff like that. Any team, I saw a comment saying that UEFA wouldn't do that to Barcelona and Real Madrid. They should do. If Barcelona and Real Madrid and teams like that are seen to be flouting rules and trying to go around it in order to spend more money than they should be spending, then yes, they should be penalized as well. So on that basis, I don't have any sympathy for Man City. They've been doing it for years. They've gotten away with it essentially, and now the chicken it's all come home to roost, and they have to deal with it. So if they're out of the Champions League for 2 years, then that's their problem.
Okay, so and this is the situation here at the moment. We have to understand, and the only person in 101 who brought this up was Nabil. Nabil talked about the effect it has on the actual players and the money. The situation is that Manchester City are desperate. That's the reason why when they got caught, they got fined and they appealed it, and then it went down to 16 million. And they got caught doing it again. And then they lied to try and fabricate the paperwork to try and get out. So they're desperate. They're desperate because if Manchester City gets stripped of the Champions League, they're in big, huge trouble. Because if you take out Champions League money from their structure right now, they are going to be in deficit every year on year. They will lose money. And what that means is they won't be able to physically pay their players. Because, look, this is this season. Next season, if they breach in contract, then it's going to happen again. They'll get fined again. And then they'll keep on getting fined until they stop doing what they're doing. But what it means is that they can't pay the players that they have their salaries. They wouldn't be able to do it. And there's going to be an exodus of players leaving that team because they are only there to win the Champions League and to play Champions League football. Well. So it's a massive, massive problem for Manchester City.
I
so
think that
this, man?
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say that when you take into consideration the amount of money that Man City have spent over the years, it is purely to win the Champions League. That's what it's all about. They are desperate to win that. They're desperate to get one over their neighbours. So when you think about that, and then they've gone on to lie and fabricate paperwork to hide the fact that they've lied. You can't do that. It's not fair. If Arsenal did that, we'd be probably kicked out of the Premier League. So you know what I mean. So I'm sorry, but you have to. Those are the rules. You voted for them. You stick to them like everybody else. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I would take one of the points that Apollo made was around the salary cap in the US and or the need to make sure teams don't go bankrupt or to make sure things are fair. I don't think financial fair play in a sense is a contradiction because it's not socialism. A company has the resources to support their team, which is what the Middle Eastern owners do. We allow Abramovich to come in and launder his money to buy Chelsea, frankly. And we don't think that was offensive, and yet we're going to penalize some teams in the Middle East for supporting their team. I don't have a problem with that. Their objective is more than just win the Champions League. They're trying to brand their region, their organization, because they know oil is running out eventually. So their strategy, they have sovereign wealth fund, is much more than just a football team. It's part of that whole initiative that they're on, which is to buy really good assets, to brand themselves, and those assets reach a lot of people, to make their location, destination a tourist resort. They're trying to figure out ways to generate revenues apart from oil. Eventually, by 2050, that oil may run out, or people may move away from oil to some other means of how we operate as a world, whether it's solar or otherwise. So their strategy is much more than just a football team. Having said that, I don't know how one can utilize fair play to penalize a team like Man City when you're saying it's about them staying solvent. This is not about solvency. They have a lot of resourcing. It's more around a socialist type construct, which is the teams that are dominant want to stay dominant. I don't buy this whole notion about it's about the Portsmouth of the world that we're trying to support. It's more around the Barcelonas, the Real Madrid having the power and want to stay dominant. Just like in the US with the salary cap, which is owners want to make sure they guarantee their profit. So the players have the money that they generate from all sources, and they guarantee profit. They have no relegation. So every year they'll make money. So this concept that they sell generally around fair play, I don't buy into that concept, actually. I just don't.
Yeah, and I just want to come in there because that's the reason why we see all these changes. And the US are still making changes in their systems. Bertram, you and Tony both know that it wasn't very long ago that rookies coming out of college could sign 70, 80, $100 million contracts. They had to stop that. Why? Because too many of the rookies turned out being busts, and then you owe somebody 80 million on their contract guaranteed when he actually can't play at the level that he needs to. So now the rookies are on a flat rookie cap, and that covers them again financially. So all these things are put in place to ensure that teams don't spend over and there's going to be the best teams. There always is. What they're worried about is the teams at the bottom who want to be the best teams but can't afford to be. And then, so what? They don't care. They'll spend the money, they'll lose money, and they'll throw everything at it. And then in the next 2 years, they'll go bust. That's what they're trying to stop. Tony, come in, man, because I know you love all this. I know you're knowledgeable about this. What's your thoughts, man?
Wow. That's a lot to digest, guys. Listen, I just want to... I've been thinking about this because can somebody clarify what happened to Rangers in Scotland?
There's a tax problem, right? They ran into problems with the tax authorities. It wasn't necessarily a financial fair play situation. I think it was a tax authority problem that they had, and they hold a lot of back taxes.
I thought that's what.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In short, Man City have been found with their dirty hands in the cookie jar. They have to pay the penalty. Simple as that. And I don't think they're the only team that have stretched the rules or gone over and done something which they shouldn't have done. But they've been caught. And that's all it boils down to. If you've been caught, you have to pay a penalty. Yeah, when we was kids, we go to the corner shop and we nick a little sweet here and there. Yeah, if you got caught, you pay the penalty. If you didn't, you got away with a little munch. So this is basically it. Man City have been caught. They must now pay the penalty. What is the penalty? UEFA have stipulated their rule, which is to say you can't play in Europe for 2 years. Are the FA, or more importantly, are the Premier League, because the FA and the Premier League are two different entities, willing to now say, well, actually, you've also done against our rules. And therefore, you also now are going to have a 2-year ban from the Premier League. Yeah? Because they can do that. They can say, right, you broke the law. Yeah? And now you're out. You pay the end of this season and you're out. the Football Association will have you kindly, but you now have to work out with them where they position you, whether that's League Championship or League One or League Two. That's all there is to it.
I think there's the deciding factor in that is the FA, and it would be the FA. It wouldn't be the Premier League because the Premier League play in the UK, which is run by the Football Association. So it would be something that the FA would do. They would overrule anything the Premier League tried to do. If anything, the Premier League would try and defend Man City because they're a brand that works well in their business model. So the FA has two choices. One, the easiest one is a points deduction, which is probably what they would do. The hardest penalty would be a relegation into the Championship. That would be the hardest penalty.
Sorry, Apollo. What is a points deduction? Yeah, that's like me going up to the corner shop, stealing all the sweets, and him saying, "I'm going to give you a points deduction." Points don't mean nothing. They really have no bearing whatsoever. Yeah? Even if you give Man City a 30-point takeaway, yeah? Look at how much they get paid for coming first and second compared to how much you get paid for coming 18th and 19th. The gap is not that big. Yeah? The gap comes when you're playing in the Championship to when you're playing in the Premier League. Why are teams doing all they can to get in the Premier League? Because the financial rewards are so much greater because of the TV rights, yeah, to play in the Premier League. Points mean nothing. Yeah, if you take Man City and you give them 30-point deduction, so what? Yeah. What does that mean? Okay. Liverpool have won the league already.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Listen. We're 2 hours up now, so that's pretty much the show done. Match of the day is about to start, so that's why people in the chat room are starting to leave. But I want to thank Bertram for coming on. We know where we can find Bertram. I've asked him this before, and it is on 101. So if you guys want to chat with him and catch up with him, it's on 101. And I know. And Ebony, you can find her on Twitter. Her Twitter handles there. You can find her on 101 as well. And with Tony, you can find him on Twitter. There's his handle, and you can find him also on 101. And here's my Twitter handle as well. Please subscribe to the channel. And sorry for the audio problems I've had. I have been about 3, 4, 5 seconds behind the stream for the last hour. And so I've had to really go on the body language. I really apologize for that. It won't happen again next week. Hopefully not, fingers crossed. But that's it from us, guys. Thanks for the panel. Brilliant from you guys again. Much appreciated every week. And that's it, guys. Any closing arguments from you guys while you're here?
You've been a trooper. That's a good thing.
Brilliant.
It's great being here.
Nice one. All right, thanks a lot, guys. All the best, man. Peace out.
All right. Peace out.
Bye now.
Nice
Bye.
One.